Hey there, riders and petrol heads. I'm just going to give you guys a little review of the Servis Tire Motocross 19-inch export quality tires. I'm going to have a little ride up the Margalla Hills on my 1959 Royal Enfield Bullet, for which these tires are stock basically, and just have a little discussion about the characteristics of these tires. So originally, when I swapped these out here in the last video, I had the Dunlop version of those tires from India. Um, they were a little bit more the knobby style, not quite as aggressive as a real, dirt bike style, but motocross, like both road and off-road. And these Servis Tyres version of this is more like classic motorcycle style for this for vintage Enfields and Triumphs and uh, BSAs and Ariels and all the like of those of that era of the 1950s and 60s. Um, the Margalla Hills road is pretty mild at the beginning, but then there are some decent switchbacks on the way up, and so it's a fairly good test going up and coming down. Uh, how the tires feel. In the basic driving, I've used these for about 1,000 kilometers uh, within Islamabad and Rawalpindi, and they're fine. They're nice and grippy. They're smooth. Vibration is low. I found them well balanced when I first mounted them compared to the old Dunlops I had on there, and that may be attributed to both manufacturer or the knobby style being a little rougher. But these are smooth and comfortable, and they feel nice and fluffy as far as like comfort. Yet they stick to the road well balanced. Um, the compound feels good in them. And on this trip up, as you start to get to the switchbacks, then you can really feel whether or not they're how they're doing under braking and how they're doing under cornering. So I think this is a reasonably good test of their characteristics. So it's just a light cruise up. I'm just snipping out little bits and pieces of the trip up the hill. Um, Nice leisurely cruise for the first little bit, and then we're going to start coming up on a few corners. And I have to say, when I was using them, like I typically don't drive over 100 kilometers an hour, but at those speeds, the tires are very nice and smooth. They roll nicely, they stop nicely, and on these corners up here, we'll see that I didn't find that the tires are their sidewalls are stiff enough that you don't feel like the tire rolls. It doesn't like in some cases with other tires I've had in the past with the MRFs and that I found the sidewalls really kind of weak, even though the tire was up to pressure where I liked it. And I run a 21 psi in the front and a 31 in the back, so I can accommodate a passenger if I like. And as we come up on the first one, the climb up is a little bit, the ascent has uh, the advantage of you're not going too fast, but these are pretty sharp. So if you can take them on the inside and switch gears and that, I found them fine. Tires didn't wobble or squeal on the way up. And I'm trying to take some caution, make sure the road has some debris along the edges whenever there's rain that it'll you get to wash across the road. So I'm a little bit more cautious after I had a little incident with dust out in Rawalpindi on my older tires, which were quite hard. From the last video, I was comparing the rubber compound, and they'd aged too much. They were 2007 was the manufacture date, and a tire really you shouldn't use beyond 6 years. The compounds not begin to harden, so um, it's made me just a little more paranoid about dust on the road. It was a very smooth pavement and just had the brake dust, tire dust, regular dust, and then I hit the brakes and probably my back wasn't really adjusted all that much well enough, and the bike went sideways, and I just set it down, and so Always make sure you have a decent quality tire on there. And so far with these service tires, little patches of dust that I've hit, it hasn't caused me any issues at all. They're new, they're good and sticky, and and they don't seem to hold dust, so that's a positive. Not that tires do, but if the compound was maybe a little too tacky, then you'd end up with a layer of dust on there, and that could cause you a problem in a sudden braking situation. So I haven't noticed any issues at all. The look of the tires is good, and always a misgiving I had with the front style tire on this is the groove style, very classic look grooves, and the Dunlops that I had before I switched them to the knobby style were the groove type, but the Dunlops out of India did not have a cross cut rain channel, and Service Tires does have there's a cross cut, so you have the grooved look, and then you have little cross channels in there so that there at least it can expel water outwardly, and rather than having to shed it off the treads, under, while you're still sitting in it, basically under the tire. And then the rear tire has a um, less aggressive tread pattern than the Dunlops did, but it's a more roadworthy yet still, off-road design, and it just makes for a much smoother ride. It's easier, and on things like this, on the hills and switchbacks, at least it's got uh, the bevels better, and so it just seems like a little bit more sure than where you're just hanging off of the knobs of the more off-road appearance type of tire. So that overall, just makes the tire feel very comfortable and nice. And as we ascend, it's not too bad. The But the switchbacks on the way back down, you get to enjoy the very sharp hairpin turns, and that's where we also get a good test of the tire. The day is reasonably on this trip here. It's 35 degrees or so, so the road is hot, and that's another good test for the tire. How's it going to do in the heat? Um, when the road is both hot and it's been running for a while, so the tires are hot too. And I didn't notice again any slipping. I didn't notice that the tire felt like it was rolling under the rim from a soft sidewall. This was just smooth and easy going up the hill. This bike's not super powerful or anything like that, so I'm not like on some sort of rice rocket trying to race up the hill. I'm just taking it easy, making a little trip up to the top where the hotels and the restaurants are, and then just to zip back down and just to do this review for you guys, just so you can make sort of a comparison on what you think of the Service Tires against what other brands you may be looking for vintage bike or any bike that's running a 19-inch tire. The So the descent that we have a little bit more, these outer ones are not so bad. Again, just watch the dust around the outside edges. People rip up and down on these little 125s and stuff like that, and they just go for it. I find the Enfield a bit of a top-heavy bike, so I always, generally just take it easy, and I don't gunner down the hills. You can get lots of other straightaways in that, like here, that you can rip it up a little bit more. But as you come into we'll have the other sort of reverse hairpins like here, and this is where you're really going to feel like the weight of the bike on the tires and that, and they give a little squeal, which they should. All the car tires are doing it and that everything, but they're not slippy, they're not rolling. Um, Tread quality's been so far so good for the number of kilometers I put on around the city. There hasn't been any nicks or tears or anything like that. A little bit of gravel here and there, and the various road conditions around through some of the highway construction and that heading out on the highway to Lahore. There's chances for just stuff, debris on the road. And again, I never had any issues. I tried the brakes out a couple of times here just to give it a good whack on the back brake and that. And the braking is solid. The tire's not sliding, not giving me any grief. So overall, I found that the trip up and down. I do this, and I did this the other day. This same trip, just for a little burn. Um, a little bit more confidence in using the tires and the hill. So it was better than even than this trip, and a little bit less traffic that day too. So it's makes that a little bit easier. But overall, comfortable, nice. Uh, Vibration is reduced. You can see I have the camera on my chest, but the keys are always a good indication on the handlebars there, like how much rattling and shaking's going on, and you can see that they're pretty steady. So the tires are behaving quite nicely as far as comfort goes, and reduced vibration on the handlebars. And again, the Dunlops with the more aggressive knobs on the tires, it was really rattly. Like you get the white knuckles after a long trip. So it's fatiguing, and the service tires are smooth and nice, and so I'm gonna give them a thumbs up on the comfort level for them. Again, I'm gonna say on the build quality of the tire, the fact that they went on in a shot, and there's a setting bead or a line groove along the tire where it meets the rim to tell you that your bead is set properly. So those were set up, aired up properly like that, and there's no wobble or anything in the steering wheel. And when I put those Dunlops on, the ones I'd taken off were like new old stock, so they were just old tires, never used, and had become hard, and but they'd never been set on a bike before, so the front one was wobbly. When I put it on, even though the line was set, I could feel it. I could feel it. I could see it. A kind of a not a bulge or anything like that. Just perhaps the end of that production line, and it had I don't know how you'd call it. It's lumpy or whatever type of thing. And it's a tire that wasn't like it was sat on for a period of time. I'd kept them in a cool, dark place for a long time. So there's at least with the pair of tires that I got from Service, they built as nice, and the kit came with the tube, and it came with the liner for the spokes. So I'm very pleased. I got to say, if they're in your market, then consider them. Look at their price point. If you're concerned about build quality, well, I can't give you the long term on these. 1,000 kilometers, few months is not much, but they've been. I mean, I'd buy them again, and I recommend that you consider them if they're in your market. So you guys have a good day. It's the end of the road. We're back down, and I hope this was informative. And hope you have a look at Service Tires next time you're shopping. You take care. See ya.